Just to give a very short introduction, I mentioned on Shabbat, Parashat Yitro, that the Midrash tells us that Yitro made a deal with Moshe Rabbeinu. He told Moshe Rabbeinu that he'll agree that Moshe could marry Tzipora on condition that Moshe gives his first child to Avodah Zarah, to idol worship. And Moshe Rabbeinu agreed. This is very puzzling. Yitro already didn't believe in Avodah Zarah. He was kicked out of his children were kicked out of the well because already they didn't believe in Avodah Zarah. And Moshe Rabbeinu agreeing? Very interesting. So the Sefer Ma'ayan Bet HaShoeva says the following. It says really, there was two approaches in bringing up your child. Yitro's approach was trying out every religion, and then seeing where the truth was, where the emet was. And that's what he wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to do. Go, give your child Gershon, tell him to go. Just like they say by the Amish, that at a certain age, they let them go out in the world, experience a year, and then come back. So he said, I want you to try the same. I want you to go out and experience the world, and then come back and see if it works. Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, fine, I'll try that. By the second son, he didn't do that. By the second son, Moshe Rabbeinu said, no. I heard once from the author of Raising Roses Among Thorns that our street is not the same street as we have nowadays. It's a different street. Rabbi Orlowek Shlita, a Rebbe of mine, who many of my my wife and I, our chinuch insights that we have, we aspire to what Rabbi Orlowek teaches, is about giving a child a healthy environment, shielding him away from the dangerous street that there is, because there are so many negative messages, and that's why it's imperative to have these type of parenting seminars and vadim and sessions, which, if you've noticed, I'm very passionate about, because I feel that just like I benefited so much, I am eager that others should benefit as well. So you didn't come to hear me, but I felt that it's important to convey that message of the timeless messages that Rabbi Orlowek that it teaches us. Really, they are things that we could implement, and it can make a tremendous difference in our children's lives. And Yehidat Son, that just by coming over here is a tefillah, as Rabbi Orlowek always says, it's a tefillah that we want our children to succeed, and already is a big thing. So without further ado, Mori Rabbi and Rabbi Noach Orlowek Shli.
We'll look at this maybe, okay? Don't worry, you won't be cheated. I want to respond to, I can't say it in Moroccan, but Moreno Harav, yeah? Kvod Harav. Yeah. Rabbi Michal Tversky from Milwaukee came to Eshet Harav. I'm trying, yeah? And he said the same shot as Rav Schwab, same thing, with a little bit of a tweak of a difference. Yisrael had tasted every avodah zarah in the world. He had done everything. I will take the first child. That's how Rabbi Michal shot. I will take that first child, and I'll give him a guided tour of everything. And then he'll know how to handle everything. And that's what Moshe agreed to. Now, I don't know if it says that he actually did that. It does? Yeah? In other words, Yisro, he said, I will show you. I'll go with you. I'll show you. That's a Rabbi Michal. We don't pass him like Yitzchak. We don't pass him like him. I want to just... This question of, there's a street out there, in Radin and in Fez, yeah? 100 years ago, 110 years ago, you went into the street, in the winter there was mud. In Rodden, you had a few communists. There weren't any communists in Fez, but there were alliance, people who were canvassing for the Alliance School. That was the equivalent. Yeah. Today, I was in Toronto airport a bunch of years ago. There was a Hasidic boy, had these long, what they call in the Israeli army, zingalach. These little, curls of hair hanging down. And he was trying to communicate to an Air Canada agent in the language that he knew, Yiddish. And Air Canada has failed to train their agents in Yiddish. They asked me to translate, and I couldn't. I had to catch a plane for nights. I'm sorry, I can't. Yeah. I had to run and fly until I was late for the flight, which almost never happens to me. So the parents of this Hasidic child, they have a derech. The derech is to protect, to shield, to make sure nothing ever gets to that child, and he should grow up strong and straight. There are others who say, wait a minute, we need to expose you and show you and teach you. I am not going to say which one is better or worse. It really depends, where do you live? What is your reality? Okay? If you choose to live in Tosh, yeah, or in other places like that, okay. I am not here to tell you how to raise your children, by the way. I'm here to give you ideas and tools of things that I think will help you figure out this problem. Then, if we have a few minutes, maybe we'll go through this also. But I think the rabbi touched on something which is extremely relevant. Many years ago, I was in Mexico City when the Mexican flu broke out. I was at the epicenter of it. People walking around with masks. And I came back to Israel, and I asked Dr. Schwab, I called up Cleveland, and I asked Dr. Schwab, should I take the Mexican flu shot? And this man, he's a walking encyclopedia in medicine. So if you know too much, there's always two sides. There's always two, He finally said to me, you, Rabbi Orlowek, you have to sleep more. Because when you sleep, the body's antibodies go up. The ability to resist disease goes up. So the balance of what we need to do with our children it's a Mefusha Dale Carnegie, yeah, that when you speak, you don't compete with a moving target. Something's happening, so then you wait. That's okay, I'm sure this is my benefit. Yeah. His example was that someone's going through the hall, opening and closing the windows. Just stop speaking, because everyone is interested in how he's opening and closing the windows. Balance is sometimes this and sometimes that. The word emet, truth, is the first letter, middle letter, and last letter. It's stable, it's the beginning, middle, and end. The word ish means a successful person. The Ozer Rabbi Zechariah says it stands for Emsa, Yamin, smile. Middle, right, and left. Sometimes like this and sometimes like that. Okay? My paradigm of it is truth is like white light going through a prism. Truth is emet. Emet is singular. But hayim, life, is in the plural. In Hebrew, chaim is always in the plural. Because sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's yellow. That white light through a prism has different colors. Those colors are all right. They're all correct. It's sometimes like this and sometimes like that. So I want to try and give you some of the basic antibodies which will help your child look at the street and say, "There's no in Ivrit." Okay? How do you do that? How do you get people? This is not recorded. Everything's from zero, so I don't know. Is that what that means?
Yes, thank you, Rabbi.
Yeah. How do you do that? So let's take a look at some principles, and somehow maybe I'll fit it all into this, and then I say that was the talk. Okay? There's a rule in life. External things are not permanent. Internal things are permanent. Anything that's forced on from the outside doesn't remain as soon as you move the environment. And not only doesn't it remain, often it's a jack in the box the other way. You go to a very strict, disciplined place, which runs things with punishments or rewards. Okay, either way. I do something because it's worth my while, either to avoid pain or to get a certain prize. And that for sure works with mice. Okay, this has been proven. This guy, Skinner, B.F. Skinner, has proven that you can get mice to behave a certain way, but you don't change the mouse. All the mouse is doing is what's good for me to do. But I have not internalized anything. What other things do you want to internalize in the child that he or she can go out into an environment which is inimical, which is dangerous to them, which is pretty much everywhere in the 21st century, and they should grow straight and strong. That's the subject. So the first point is you have to internalize things. How do you internalize things? Okay? Children learn a certain way. Children are dominant emotion. Their language is emotion. Their language is nonverbal. Without getting into too many details, the language of emotion is touch, tone of voice, eye contact, sincerity, music. I'm not a doctor, but the only thing I can prescribe without going to jail is Mozart, and I do. I'm a flexible rabbi. It can be Beethoven and Rossini and Tchaikovsky and Vivaldi. That's also acceptable. Okay, so I'm flexible. Not this Jewish rock and roll today, which is Hasidic music. Yeah? Okay? It's rock and roll, and your kids rock and roll when they hear it. Yeah? The atmosphere of a home. Do you want to be there? Does a child want to be there? They decide on their own, do I want to be here? What are the basic moving parts of a person wanting to be in a certain environment? Every human being wants to matter. Every human being wants to make a difference. Every human being wants to do something meaningful. A child first does what's meaningful to those who are around him or her. And they internalize what's meaningful to father and mother will be meaningful to me. But it comes internalized. Now, I don't lecture to you and talk to you. On a personal note, because I was delayed for 24 hours in Toronto, I was supposed to spend the day in Israel and then go to Johannesburg. But that day was spent in Toronto because of the 2 delays. There was a Shabbaton waiting for me. I didn't go. It was too much. Even someone crazy like me, there was a great mechanech, Chaim Lifshitz. That name mean anything to you? This man studied under Piaget, and he was also a mashgiach in Keren B'Yavne. Yeah? He was a graphologist also. He was an amazing person. He gave me the best advice I ever got in my life. I had gone back to become a mashgiach in a yeshiva in America for a year. You know what he told me? He told me, be yourself. I had 2 great mashgiachim. One learned in Kelm, one learned in Sabotka. He told me, be yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to be yourself. So I didn't make it to Johannesburg, but they had a Shabbaton waiting for me. My son, who is there, who's today's his birthday, I left a message on his machine. Maybe I'll get to him later. Yeah? He was there. There were about 50 boys waiting to hear me speak. He said, if my father was here, he would talk about gratitude. To me, this is probably the single greatest attribute that a person can have for a successful life. Grateful to parents, grateful to spouse, grateful to Hashem. It's a great world. If my father was here, that's what he would talk about. That was probably one of the finest moments of my life. I never said a word to him about gratitude. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Garnished. Ephes. How do you pick that up? I don't know how you pick that up. I didn't teach my kids anything. You made my morning, Mrs. Bitterman. She said, my son, she spoke to my son, it was like a little Rabbi Orlowek, a young Rabbi Orlowek. I don't teach him anything. I didn't teach him anything. You teach yourself. Now, I'm not saying I'm such a great rabbi, okay? When I get introduced as being this big rabbi, so I touch my tummy, yeah? And that's sort of like, to make sure that I stay healthy. Yeah, that I don't actually believe what people say about me. So we have to give people insights. The Mexican flu is best dealt with when I'm healthy, inside. I've slept. When a person feels wanted, needed, respected, and I'm going to give examples of how, and then we'll somehow try and fit it into this. Yeah? Then they don't want to go anywhere. Now, I don't know how many of you know American geography. I did an in-service once in Montreal in a certain school, and I spoke about the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, where General Wolfe and General Montcalm, General Wolfe actually was killed, but the French still lost the battle, and no one in that room heard of the Battle of the Plains of Abraham except one teacher who was an American. Okay? A person, so in American geography, so there's a place called Arizona. Does anybody know where Arizona is? Okay. So that's enough. It's the southwest United States. It borders on a country called Mexico. The Mexican army is not patrolling the Mexican border to prevent Americans from infiltrating into Mexico. They're just not doing it. Who wants to infiltrate into Mexico? People don't emigrate unless they have to, unless they need to. Your children will not emigrate if they like it where they are. Now we have to know we are all transition generations. The world is different. I moved to Israel in 1968. I raised my children in Israel, Baruch Hashem. I'm an American. Now, I had a special help from heaven that when my kids were young, I was a Cheder Rebbe. When they were in high school, I was a high school mashgiach. When they were Yeshiva Gedolah, I was a Yeshiva Gedolah mashgiach. That doesn't happen, usually. And I did a good shidduch. But you're immigrants. The kids are raising your kids in a different world than you grew up in. Whether you're about tshuva or not about tshuva, it doesn't matter. You're a transition generation. How do you transit? You transit by taking what's true. It's always true, and translating it. Is it yellow? Is it yellow? Is it blue? Is it red? Not green. I had a student from a certain school on Yamsuf Street in Sanhedrin Muchevet, who I wasn't her teacher, but she had trouble with God. And the rabbi who headed the school asked me to meet her to see if she has any psychological problems. It turns out that her mother is a deeply religious woman, even though I don't like that word. A deeply spiritual, connected to God woman. And her father's an atheist. So I pointed to the wall and I said, what's that? What color is that? She said, green. said, no, it's not. It's blue and yellow together. She doesn't have any psychological problems. She's confused. She loves her mother. She loves her father, and they love her. And they had a good marriage also, by the way. Not our subject. Yeah? She's confused. She didn't get married until mid to late 30s. She didn't know who she was. Yeah? But they brought up a wonderful person. They transmitted to that child the things that that child needed to have for a But when it came to religion, thank you. When it came to religion, so she was confused, which is a perfectly healthy way to react to that upbringing. She's green. So you transmit to your child that you are worthwhile. You matter. I respect you. How do you respect a child? You remember what they tell you. You listen to what they have to say. You respect what they have to say. Over Shabbos, I said over a Meissen, one of the fresher Meissen is that there was a 5-year-old who decided he's not going to school anymore. Does very well in school. He says, what? Why? He said, my father had a heart attack while I was in school. I want to stay home now to watch him and make sure he doesn't get another heart attack. So what they did do, they said, it doesn't make a difference whether you're in school or not. So he went back to school. He was good, obedient boy. Good and obedient, by the way, is not the same thing. Okay, here's a child who wanted to do the right thing. And the right thing is usually what his parents in school says. He went back to school, and his father had another heart attack. Then I got to Shiloh through my wife. What should they have done? They should have said to the child, and this is a paradigm, and if you want, we can have a lot of examples of it. David, wow, that's amazing. You want to protect your father. You love your father so much. And you don't, and you're even willing not to go to school to help him. That's terrific. Accept, validate, and say, but Abba, father, would love you, wants you to go to school. That's what he wants. And it's better if you're Abba, if you learn Torah in school, than if you stay home. We can't prevent a heart attack. Okay? Or we're going to go to a doctor to help prevent a heart attack. If they would have done that, then the child would have felt validated, understood, respected. It is no longer a weakness to validate, respect, and listen to someone. So that they can validate, respect, and listen to you also. Because people who are weak, what do they want? Everyone wants what they're missing. Poor people want money, sick people want health. Yeah? If you have vertigo, so you want to be able to see the world straight up, right? What do kids want? They want some input. They want input. Because they have no input. I am not a psychologist, but I've read some books. And there's this book which I always mention, the Talmud teaches us, when you have one coin in the bottle, it makes a lot of noise. Yeah? So there's a book I always quote, called The Optimistic Child. They ran a test on infants, and they put a mobile in. The mobile that spun without the child having any control over it, they wasn't interested in it. But when they can press something, and they can spin this way and that way, like you have these toys, you press this, it goes, moo, and this one goes, meow, this one goes, yeah? And okay, we're done with imitations for today. Yeah? Yeah, that's for the Seder night in Chad Gadya. Yeah? My grandkids wait for that. Yeah? Those toys keep the interest of a child longer. Why? Because I have input. I affect my son. Why do kids throw things out of high chairs? Or drop things down stairwells with people from Toronto don't even know what a stairwell is. There's a thing called an apartment building. Yeah? Okay, and if you drop it, so they're really just scientists testing the law of gravity. Yeah? They want to see the egg. That's what they want to see. It's an experiment. I can make that happen. Why do kids tear down sandcastles? Especially their younger sister's sandcastle. Yeah? Because they want make something happen. Like get up. They love it when a kid does that. Yeah, when their little sister does that. Yeah? You teach the younger sister not to do that, they'll stop doing it. The brother will stop hurting her because it don't fun anymore. People want to affect their world. If a child can talk and be heard, not obeyed all the time, but heard, that child's not going to want to emigrate because he doesn't have that out there. You have music in your home. There's no music outside. No real music. There's no smile on the mother's face when the child comes home out there. That's first of all. Do I like to be where I am? And that's just an example of like to be where I am. If you're critical and finding what's wrong with what the child is doing and they think that's chinuch, that's called education, You give a child the feeling that you think they're capable. Give them tasks to do. Tasks that they can accomplish. Not perfectly. Children are emotional, so they react to nonverbal messages. When I tell a child on a day like this, if it's really blowing hard, there's a wind factor and it's snowing, and you tell a 9-year-old child, don't forget to put your coat on. There's a verbal message, don't forget to put your coat on. The nonverbal message is, you're stupid. That's the nonverbal. I told you 100 times. So the message was, I told you 100 times. That's the verbal message. The nonverbal message is the tone of voice. The nonverbal message goes through, you're stupid. I told you 100 times already. A child has to feel not criticized by people he believes. He believes that my parents know me. My parents think I'm stupid. I must be stupid. I have no time to read things. There's someone who sent me an article, someone who was in Toronto, sent me an article about my mashkiach, 100-yard site, Dr. Feldman from the Mir. And I was very grateful to him. This is about 4 months ago. It's on my bureau. I haven't had a chance to open the envelope yet. And I'm not exaggerating. I don't have time. The last book I put out in July, Turning Ideas into Action, Art School told me, we need you to put in the cross-references. I said I need an hour in my room. I can't do that on an airplane. If you give it to me in Tishrei, in September, I can do it. I need an hour. If you don't, I won't have the hour until before Pesach. And I didn't. They had to wait. But there's a book I read, and I urge you to read it. As long as I shall live. One of the things that's changed in the last few years, I am responsible for a girls' high school in Tel Aviv. He came to speak there. This man got polio when 1953-54, not in the United States, in the Tivot, in southern Israel. And Israel was such an undeveloped country then, they put these kids in boxes on shelves. They couldn't move. They didn't have facilities. They put them in boxes on shelves. That's how they kept them, like in a shoe store. The mother lived in the Tivot. It was a whole day just to go back and forth to be with her child for an hour. And she did it once a week. It's an amazing book. You should read it, and when you finish, do it again. It's in English. It's originally in Hebrew. Read it. I'm telling you, read it.
What's it called?
What?
What's it called again?
And I Shall Live. Yeah? Put out by Feldheim. By Aaron Magolid. He stuttered terribly. That was one of his smaller challenges in life. He's a great speaker now. And he got cancer 3 or 4 times. He had an interesting life. And he stuttered. He was a chassid, just like this boy in Toronto airport. A chassid has a very great advantage. He has a Rebbe, and he has to listen to him. So the Rebbe says, you stutter. You're going out on shidduchim, you're going to go out to find a kala, a bride. You have to learn how to talk. So you had to listen to him, because the Rebbe said he had to go to Tel Aviv, to this guy who was a German Jewish martinet. Martinet is a taskmaster, a drill sergeant. He was not nice. Right? He was just not nice. Finally, he got him to the point where he said to him, you now have to speak up in class. You have to ask a question. Ask a question? Yes, and don't come back if you don't. Imagine that. In the United States, the doctor would be sued for that. Be sued for Prussian abuse. Friday came Thursday. What is he going to do? The Rebbe insists he has to go. And he can't go back unless he speaks up. So he spoke up. He asked the question. The Rebbe picked first time it ever happened. The Rebbe looked up and said to him, I'm pretty sure it's that kasha is a good question. This is the answer. Fine. And he went weiter. Like nothing happened. Huh? Don't you know what I just did? Don't you know what I did? I asked the question. And you just went on. He found out afterwards that the teacher had made sure the Rebbe, I probably didn't call it then, because didn't have telephones really. But he communicated to the teacher, he's going to ask a question, Margolit is going to ask a question. Don't react, just say it's a good question, and make sure all the boys in the class don't say, no, nothing, silence. Yeah? You know why? Because if you would have made a big deal about it, that's a non-verbal message. I didn't expect you to do that. That must have been hard for you. Terrific! Well, now I don't have to ever do it again. I did it, I paid my dues, finished. But the Rebbe reacted like, of course, Aaron. Boker Tov, good morning, thank you, it was a great question. Right there. When your child does something good, don't say, Dvaira, wow, that was amazing, it was terrific, it was great. No. That was great. You give her a hug, not a thing, especially a thing with white sugar. Just give her a hug and say, I'm so proud of you. Let's call up Savta, Nuestra Abuela, the Baba. I don't know how to say it in French. I told the rabbi this when I came, I don't know much French. But I came to Montreal after I tried out my French at the border. So I said to the policeman, no parlez-vous français, which I think means you don't speak French. Is that right? So the guy looked at me and wanted to decide whether he should let me into Canada. You understand? So, Yono, Ablov, Tzafatit. Okay? You call up grandma and tell you, no, Devira, yes, she cleaned it. But not a big deal, not a big deal. Like you're surprised, non-verbally surprised at good behavior. Just like telling him, I told you 100 times. It's the other side. It's the opposite of, I told you 100 times. You really did that? That was good. No. It's a non-verbal message to the child that, of course, I expect you to do a good job, but I recognize the job was good. When you expect something, you take it for granted. Oh no, don't take it for granted. Encourage, but not too, enormously. Children pick that up. That it builds their insides. There's a Jew who lives in Yerushalayim, next door to me. His name is Tzvi Shank. Tzvi Shank has a bum leg. He has one leg that's about as big as, very small. And it doesn't even reach to the ground. He was born that way. Such a happy person. I watch him limping to shul. Such a happy person. He's a pillar of giving in the community. So I said to him, Tzvi, hey, how do you mean? Oh, he knows Yiddish also. He said to his mother, told him, Tzvi, you can't take 10 dishes. This is a thing called dishes. Yeah? You can't take 10 dishes because you might drop it in the bread, but you can take 1 dish. You do what you can. And he did. Did he, and he's still doing it. We expect that from you. There's a boy, he's not a boy anymore, but an Eshet Torah. He had a child. I went to the Shalom Zacher. I am blessed and cursed with good eyes. And I saw something was wrong. I said to him afterwards, I said, Mickey, what's the problem? He said to me, my son was born 3 fingers on one hand. 20 years later, he was online Friday night, in Torah or to wish good Shabbos after. Shalom Aleichem! With his 3 fingers. What's the problem? So he has 3 fingers. Like, so what? Do you understand? These are all nonverbal messages that I am capable. If anyone from the outside world calls me stupid, I'm not stupid. Someone calls me a dirty Jew, I don't go take a shower. The environment out there doesn't affect me as much. It's like I got a good night's sleep, so I don't have to worry so much. Now, it's not a mitzvah to go to Mexico when the Mexican flu is breaking out. It's not a mitzvah to do that. It's not a mitzvah to send your child to an inimical environment, to a people I know what an inimical means, to an alien environment. It's not a mitzvah, yeah? But you have to build them up. One of the first times I met Rav Mendel Weinbach, was Shiva Nasamat, Zechayim Levracha. He was in bed. He had hepatitis. Who was in bed with him? His son, who was about 5, 6, something like that. He wanted his son to catch hepatitis. Because when you catch hepatitis as a young child, you're done. It's like measles. You're done. And so for the rest of his life, his childhood, that's what they used to do then. And we're talking about 45 years ago. Now I don't know. Because a woman asked me about how to manage on a flight with a young infant who's won't sleep. Said, give a suppository. So she went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician told her, if you give a suppository to your child to put the child to sleep, I will report you for child abuse. So, cuidado, have to be careful. Have to be careful. It's a different world. Now, I'm not saying that I'm right and the doctor's wrong. I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I just was an innocent suggestion. And I sent it to the doctor. So let us right now sum up what we have said so far and see if we could fit this into this, okay? You know how you shoot a bullseye every time? You shoot the arrow and then you draw a circle around it, okay? So that's what we're going to do now. Your obligation is to prepare your child for life. Life means that that person can go on his own. Every parent wants their child to outlive them. My child, the one who was in Johannesburg, a few of them were in Johannesburg. Yeah? He's going to outlive me, I hope. I hope he'll outlive me. He has to walk in this world without me. Chaim means the ability to reclaim himself. The Maharal says, Mayim Chaim, well water, is called living water because it replenishes itself. How does a child go by him or herself in a world where they're being assaulted, constantly assaulted? They have to be able to push back. They have to feel they're valuable people, that they're capable people. An optimist is not someone who says things will be great. Optimist is someone who says, whatever happens, I'll land at my feet. There's certain truths of life that we have. Life is good. Life is a happy place if you're a giver. In your home, did you make a difference? Did your parents happy to have you around? You know, Dvara does great challah. Elazar, who you met, he was an expert cook. With 5 of our first 6 children were boys. He's actually the Bukhar. He beat his brother out by 5 minutes. Yeah, he's an expert cook. Of course, we didn't advertise it during Shidduchim, because he must not be such a good Bukhar if he knows how to cook. Yeah, stupidity. Yeah, but his wife is, actually she's South African, so his wife is very, very happy to have him make Shabbos. She's not threatened by that at all. You understand? You make Shabbos. Okay? He feels capable, so he might, scorch his finger once. He'll learn not to do that again. I tell him not to, but if he did it, he'll learn not to do it again. Yeah? Which maybe that's also child abuse today, I don't know. Yeah? He's capable of understanding. Do I matter in my house? I don't want to emigrate. Am I respected, heard, cared for? Heard out, listened to, consulted. You have a trouble with a 4-year-old? Ask your 8-year-old. They know a lot. Ask them sincerely. They make a difference. There was a couple, very wonderful people. It's an old story. They had a 12-year-old daughter, closed up, didn't talk at all. Nothing. Like Eureka. She was closed up completely. And they were like 40, maybe more, 50 years older than her. And they had raised a whole family. She was the youngest. What did she know? She didn't talk. So they came to me and they asked me, what should we do? I said, ask her what to buy for dessert for Shabbat. And she answered them. Well, what happened? People don't talk if it doesn't help. If it helps to talk to you, you want your kids to talk to you. It's a place where they're heard. They may not be heard in school, they may not be heard in the street. At home, I know I'm a good person. I tell parents all the time who thank me for the chinuch that I gave their kids, say, I received a person. They're not going to splash some paint on him or her, but the person that comes from the home. And when a person feels good at home, they don't emigrate. And they have antibodies. It's not a mystery to send them to places where they're going to be negatively affected. Also, there are things that they can't protect before they're ready to protect themselves. Then you have to protect them. If your child, if you don't nurse and you have an infant, you should not go on a very long transit black to fight. Because the infant has no immune system. If you nurse, then you're transmitting your immune system to the child. Oh, immune systems are very important. How are they so important? A woman asked me in Ramat Eshkol, she wants to go to a wedding in Toronto. She has a 3 or 4-year-old child who's very attached to her. Should she let the child know right before she's leaving? Or should she break it to the child slowly? So I said to her, who said you should go? Like, you're going to a good friend's wedding. Like, so? I don't think you should go. I don't know if she'll listen to me or not. Well, probably most people don't listen to me. Yeah? Okay? You know, your friend will say, thank you, so nice to see you, and maybe dance with you for 4 minutes, and that's it. She has other guests. And your 3 or 4-year-old child is missing his imam. You have to take care of your child, but raise them to a point where they take care of themselves. A 2-year-old pulls a spoon out of your hand and says, by myself. That's very good. He wants to do it himself. So train him how to eat. In such a place, eventually the child will have antibodies. And then, but the last thing is you have to pray. Because all this good advice doesn't help if you don't have it. And as the rabbi said, coming here is a prayer. Now let's take a look at our handout. Oh my. Okay. There's only 1 or 2 letters here that we didn't cover, so let's go through it. Perfection versus perfectionism. This morning, someone asked me, my daughter can't make decisions. She's very indecisive after chakras. So I said to her, is she a perfectionist? Yeah. Now don't join a few lunatics in the world who think I have divine inspiration. People who are perfectionists, it might be wrong, it might be a mistake, I can't do that. It might not work out. It has to be perfect. A perfectionist is someone who can't separate how good they are from how well they do. I'm only good if I do well. That's a pretty scary life. Perfection is a point of reference. Am I going in the right direction? Atmosphere, we spoke about that. Mozart, Vivaldi, Rossini, Tchaikovsky, yeah? Etc. Yeah? I didn't say Johann Strauss. Yeah? He's also okay. There was no tzaddik. It's okay to listen to the music. Yeah? The atmosphere, no, is there a happy atmosphere? Is there shalom bayis? Kids need to have parents who get along. If you have shalom bayis problems, work it out. Role modeling, kids, they're not verbal, they're nonverbal, they're emotional. They look and they see. Empathy. You want to stay home. Your Abba had a heart attack. You want to watch him. That's amazing. It's not my child. I am here for my child. My child's not here for me. I don't need for my child to like me. So he won't like me. And he says, I'm going to put you in the sleaziest old age home I can find when you get older. So save up. Yeah? And you'll upgrade your old age home. You need your child to like you? Oh no. You need to do what's good for your child. Then your child will like you. But that's a byproduct. Your child is not there for you. You're there for your child. Timing, that's what we didn't do. Timing is when you need to do something the child doesn't like, or prepare them for surprises, like an amusement park, a supermarket. Prepare them. It's the timing of communication is very important. When your kids come home, you should be wearing a smile. The timing is very important. You have to explain something to someone, not when they're down. You have to show them that they're making a mistake, not when they're down. Find the right time. When someone's sitting shiva, so you don't say to them, it's okay, it's good, everything God does is good, Hashem gives, Hashem takes, everything is... That's not what you tell someone who just lost a relative. It's not the right time. It's in the morning now. That's not the right time. Invest in the kid. Invest. All the things we're talking about are investments. It's nice to be alive. It's a great world. I spoke this morning in Rabbi Zitz's shul, and they asked me to say something. I said, over a lesson there, Rabbi Noach Orlowek taught me this morning on the way to shul. He says, snow is beautiful. And it absorbs the sound. There's a quieter street when there's piles of snow. Yeah? Of course, you have to protect yourself. You have to dress warmly. That's exactly right. There's a negative environment. It's nice to be alive. The world is a good place, but dress warmly. Vaccinate yourself. Make sure you're not exposed to these germs. How many germs are no good? Well, take a look and see what happens to people who are not giving their children spiritual nourishment. Just take a look, see what happens. You don't have to be that intelligent today. Just look around and see how a secular lifestyle, which is, I want to have fun. Did you enjoy school today? No, don't say that. You don't measure something by, did I enjoy it or not? Maybe it wasn't so enjoyable today. There are things that are not enjoyable. Now, the only reason I tried to make this enjoyable is like the cherry flavor in the cough syrup. I want it to go down. I'm not here to you should enjoy my speech. I want you to get something out of it. You won't get much out of it if you don't enjoy it. So it's an active ingredient, but it's not the goal. Did you enjoy school today is not the way you want to teach a child to feel, was school good today? Did I enjoy it? Maybe the teacher put a red X next to a wrong answer. Or, maybe motioned that they have to be, I didn't enjoy that. It wasn't good. Oh no. Life is not just to be enjoyed. There are a lot of things in life that are not enjoyable. And they bring the greatest happiness eventually. Hard things. Eventually, greatest happiness. And giving or not, that's the question. The child has to know the happiness of giving. Like we gave examples of making a difference in the home, helping out. One of the greatest educators in the last 100 years was named Rabbi Noach Orlowek. Rabbi Noach Orlowek told my mashgiach, my mashgiach heard it from him in the mirror. He said, when a child receives a reward, part of his reward is to share it with everybody else. That's part of the reward. And plus prayer. That's how we have to do. Okay? Now, so we covered the handout. Are there any questions? Yes?
A child who's well-baked, a 12-year-old child who's well-baked, sending him to summer camp for a few weeks. Are there just too many unknowns? Or
the question is, why do you have to do it? If you have to go to Mexico, it could be you take the flu, I took a flu shot before leaving because I was preparing for the winter, okay? And I took, there's a thing called a vaccination against pneumonia. It's a new thing. My arm ached all day from it. It's an intramuscular thing, and she told me it is going to hurt. But I'm preparing for the winter by taking a flu shot. It's not, I don't want to insult you, but I'd really rather be home. Okay? I'd really rather be home. Yeah. My wife told me 3 magic words this morning. I miss you. And it's mucho, mucho. Okay? I like being here. I don't enjoy being here. It's meaningful for me to be here. Because if I help one of you a little bit, then it's worth my coming. Okay? But I need to know, why do you have to send, you have to, there's a phrase that I have, is the product worth the price? Okay? there's a certain product in camp. You're going to pay a price for it. Is it worth the price? I go to Chile usually every year. I'm probably going next month to Chile. One year they said, now, I don't bicker too much about money, about price. I have no idea if I'm being paid, how much I'm being paid. That's not the point. But I need to fly business. To Chile, the shortest way is 21 hours through Madrid. That's the shortest way. Of course, you're going to fly Iberia. Okay? Which, of course, is a partner with American Airlines, which, gosh. Okay? So I said, this year we can't fly your business. So I said, it's not a problem. I won't come. I won't come. It's too high a price. Because wherever I go, people are waiting for me. They're knives and forks. And I'm very happy to be edible. But I need to have rested. So I won't come. I didn't go that year. So now they're coming up with, in a way that, Lan Chile will take care of me. The product is not worth the price if I'm going to get sick. Okay? I can do a lot of things. I'm in better shape than most of us in the yeshiva. You know that? I'm sorry to say. One boy, I want to get him off of smoking. So we danced. Until he finally gave up. He couldn't manage it. I'm 50 years older than him. So you see, maybe you should stop smoking. It really didn't help. He did one thing that really makes sure that you stop smoking. He married a nurse. And he's not smoking anymore. Okay? Find out if the product was the price. What's the price? What's the product? But the child can't feel deprived. I'm being punished for not going to camp. That's why you have to be careful. What standard of living you raise your child in? Okay? And if you can't give that standard of living, then you have to compensate with something else. Like a parent. Like being a parent. Any other questions? Yes?
So how do we role model then with the children when they come home from school? Because the natural question is, did you enjoy school today? What else are you supposed to, like, so, I just want to practical like that. So practical.
That's the culture.
So can I roll model?
Yeah. How was school today? I did oh no, you'll ask me.
How was school today?
Let's do it the opposite.
Okay.
This is not meant disrespectfully. Mati, which I know in Morocco, they don't cook in mati, do they?
No.
What are they?
Mardoche.
Mardoche. Yeah? Mardoche. That sounds like Mardoche. Okay.
Just parenthetically, Rabbi Orlowek was the mashgiach of a Moroccan yeshiva or Baruch for many, many years. Yeah.
I disqualify myself from davening for the Amud because I don't know how to read Hebrew. Really? What did you learn? Did you learn something today that really struck you?
No.
Did something that happened today that made you happy?
Not really.
Tell me, did something that upset you today?
No.
Tell me, can you tell me something about what happened in school?
Yeah, I need more bus tickets.
You need more bus tickets. What's the bus ticket? I mean, you go by bus to the school. Okay. Would you like me to call up your Rebbe to find out how you're doing?
No, you better not do that.
And you don't say to Abby, you better not do that. But, okay, how come?
I don't know. I'm speaking, I'm a teenager. I'm a teenager. I'm sorry, I'm a teenager.
Ah, you're a teenager. Did you play football today?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. How did it go?
Not bad.
Yeah, you liked it.
Yeah.
You scored a goal? You helped somebody score a goal?
I don't remember.
This is very accurate, by the way. The question is, how did it get that way? Okay? How did it get that way that a teenager talks that way? Because people like to talk. But then when they're 4 or 5 or 6, maybe it wasn't,
Specific questions, another specific questions.
It really make me happy if if I could tell, how do you say grandma in Moroccan?
Mimi.
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 I want to tell Mimi always wants to know what's happening in school with Madushay. What should I tell her? What should I tell her? Mimi wants to know. Mimi wants to know. You want to make her happy. What can I tell her? Something that really to make her happy about in school today. She's always calling. Huh?
Oh, I like the food.
You like the food? That's terrific. What do you like about the food?
I don't know. Different things they have.
Good. I'm right there. Then it's worth going to school for the food, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. We ended on a positive note. You got the program.
Got the program. Okay, so specific questions targeted to draw out answers.
Right.
But not that did you
it's
enjoy
like when
it
you
good.
check, for shidduchim. Don't say, is she a balat chesed? You're wasting however much a telephone call costs today. What kind of wood is she? Tell me, what do you think her most prominent leader is? Yeah? And ask 5 people the same question. So they all can't think of the same why. Right? Yeah. It is very specific, as much as you can.
But I feel a lot of times we give the children the opportunity to say, do they like their teacher? Do they not like their teacher? Do they enjoy their teacher or not? And
So I asked you, there's something that you did today to make her happy. Did you like?
so we should do that. We should make
No,
the child-
not that you like your teacher. What did the teacher do today? Can you tell me something that happened in class? Yeah? You are not helping me pass judgment on your teacher. I'm trying to decide if she's a good teacher or not. Do you like your teacher? So you're going to have, like you say, 1 man, 1 vote? Oh, no. Yeah. I'm interested in anything you can share with me about your life. Don't have any criticism. I'm just happy to hear from you. There aren't that many people in the world who are happy to hear from us. So you don't got much competition. Yes?
I strongly believe that the teachers have an impact on the life of the kids. Because
100%.
they spend quite a few hours a day. Of course, they
100%.
cannot replace the parents or the home, but
There's a difference, though.
so are the teachers qualified enough?
I don't know, I'm just a guest here.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's qualified or not.
Because
But,
some are do, some don't.
so let me build on what you're talking about. First of all, unless you have to, you shouldn't send a child to daycare at 2 or 3 years old, if you could help it. Because the mothers, a school gives information, a home builds a person. So you want to build a person that teachers won't, excuse me the words that come to mind, mess up. Okay, I know of no perfect school in the world which has every grade a perfect teacher. The best school that I know is in Los Angeles. Yeah? Okay? And they have billboards there. Now I'm going there from Toronto. Yeah? So I don't want to get stuck in snow, so that's why I'm flying from here, not from the United States. Yeah? Toronto and LA don't finish now. I'm flying American Airlines. But it's a bonus ticket, so what can I do? Yeah? So anyway, the function of a home is to build a person. Rav Olga said, a home is a beit midrash l'chesed. It's where you teach good character. That was his definition of a home. The most dangerous years in school are the middle grades. First grades are usually the teachers are nice. A tough, harsh kindergarten teacher is no. They can't. There's something wrong there. But as the classes get older, so you have the middle grade where they gradually get less nice. Yeah? And it becomes departmentalized. So those grades, most schools take a successful child to make him more successful, and an unsuccessful child to make them more unsuccessful. I'm sure there's probably teachers here. I'm sorry. Yeah? You as a parent have to inoculate your child for school. Because there's so many things that can go wrong in school. The best ones. I was flown in 1994 to listen to a presentation, a secular presentation on classroom discipline. It was called Discipline with Dignity. So I read the book on the way to the United States. But he writes over there a statistic that 80% of kids in first grade have high self-image. 20% have high self-image in 5th grade. In 12th grade, 5% of kids have high self-image. Okay, that's a secular public school in the United States. So I'm not saying our schools are exactly like that. But you know something? That means they're germs in. Because schools compare and contrast kids based on age. You put your child into a classroom. You know, I just had this question in America right before I left. That child is borderline. I spoke to a principal. The child is borderline. It's better for that child to go, talking about a 13, 14-year-old, to go into the lower grade, weaker class and be the top of the class, than go into the higher grade and be the tail. Because a child measures themselves comparatively. A great person, a mature person, the Mishnah teaches us, it's better to be the tail of a lion than the head of a weasel. So my Rosh Hashiva Zechariah Rav Schonberg and Shlomo Zalman said that's not said on kids. I'm a tail of a lion. But can you move from one group to the other, from a weaker class to a stronger? So principal says definitely. It's not cut in, and he still has until September to build up his level. That father was a very special man. I met his son a few nights ago to evaluate which school he can go to. And I gave him a test. He flunked. He flunked. But at the end, I asked him questions. I asked him where he had actually disputed, so that he knew. The principal I know very well did the same thing. He taught this father, his head is screwed on very straight. He said, "My son enjoyed meeting with you." That's why he met with me, that he should enjoy it. He met me for a reason. Okay? So, you're right, the teachers have a big input. But their input is almost completely based on what kind of kid is sitting in front of them. And that's the home. Yes?
If the mother and the father are confident that, very, very confident, and it's not their first child, it's one of their younger children, and they know their kids really well, that this child, even though he appears he's going to be the tail of the lion instead of the head of the fox, he's going to be the head of the lion in the next few years. Is it better to keep him in that higher class?
There's a big rule with human beings. There's no rules. No hard and fast rules. If you know your child, and you'll give them the ability and the math how to gain, and they'll have an encouraging teacher, no problem. Terrific. You believe in your child, but not in a too exaggerated a way. But if you know your child, you know the school, you know what his temperament is like, you know what he needs in order to advance, terrific. What's exercise? Controlled stress. That's what exercise is. What's a vaccination? It's controlled stress. As I always mention, I know someone who teaches mountain climbing in Denver, Colorado, where they have the Rocky Mountains. He told me those who are only looking at the top of the mountain never make it. Do you savor each step? Then you make it to the top of the mountain. Do you keep encouraging yourself? You're only at the top of the mountain, you get tired. So that's this child. Can he encourage himself with every step he makes? Do his parents believe in him? And will give him the help, the material help that he needs? Not because he's stupid, but because he deserves the help. He's in a tough league. 100%. No problem. Yeah. Yes.
What if your child likes the rocky music?
Likes to what?
The rocky music.
Let him listen to the rocky music. Except, I was sitting in a car, and there was a song going on. Hashem hu well like him. Hashem melech, Hashem molech, Hashem that not. That's already, you take holy ideas and holy thoughts and you, choose the word, prostitute them to the tune. That's no good. That's no good. But if they like rocky music, it's probably because they were taught to like rocky music. It's a taste. Yeah? I turned on the music. You heard my music on the computer already now? Yeah? Mozart on the menu. Now, I have collated a lot of fast Beethoven and Mozart, and I call it treadmill treats. Okay? That's what I used to get on the, who has time to get on the treadmill, but I have to get on the treadmill, so I allow myself the luxury of listening to music that I grew up with. My father, when he was in the hospital, he was out of it, had 3 heart attacks in 2 days, and he got agitated. So instead of giving him a shot, so I put the earphones on and put on the Blue Daniel, which is Johann Strauss. So anybody here know that? Yeah? Blue Daniel. Yeah? It calmed him down immediately. And there's less side effects from the Blue Daniel than whatever shot they're going to give him. You know? Understand? Music is very important. Very important. The younger the child, the more important it is. There's a book called Revelations, and he has over there a statistic, a test, that someone had money to pay for women to read Dr. Spock's Cat in the Hat to their stomachs, pregnant women. When the child was born, they hooked this child up to something, a sucking device, depending how hard or fast they sucked, they would listen, they'd get something to listen to. Guess what they pick consistently? Cat in the Hat in their mother's voice. That's, you're responsible to what your kid listens to. Mozart produces calmer children. Produces calmer children. Understand? Happy lilting music. I'm sorry. Yeah. But if they like rocky music, so then they should listen to rocky music. But it's a loss. Okay?
Good.
So we fit it in afterwards.
Right.
That's why I didn't